Recently I've been doing a lot of two-dimensional animation, and the easiest way I've found of producing a realistic result is really to choose elements from an existing photograph. So let's right click on this photo and open it in GIMP. And once it opens up, it's just a simple picture of a person here that who's in the background of one of my photos that I took this summer. What I'm going to do is I am going to cut him out of the background, and I'm going to then try and get him to move. So best tool in GIMP really for selecting pretty much anything is this free select tool here, the lasso. So we just start clicking around the outline of the person that we want to animate. Okay, you don't have to be too accurate here, but obviously the more accurate you are with the placement here, the less cleaning up you'll have to do later. And I'll just zoom in. In GIMP you can use the plus key to zoom in and the minus key to zoom out. So I'm just going to go down here and then just trace along the line of his t-shirt here. Obviously this all depends on how polished an animation you want, as to how much time you spend on this stage in actually preparing the image. But generally speaking, the longest amount of time you're going to spend in the animation is the time where you're preparing your images ready for use in the animation. And we keep basically going round the outline like this until we've selected the whole figure. So maybe you want to join me again in a couple of minutes once I've been round the whole form, and we can continue from there. Okay, so here we are back at the outlining stage. I'm just going to join up my selection now. If I zoom out, you can see we've got the marching ants all the way around the subject here. So what I'm going to do here is use the cut command, the shortcut being Control X to cut out my subject, and I'm going to use Control V to paste him back in again. As you can see, he comes in as a floating selection, so I click down here on the Add New Layer icon to create him as a separate layer, and I'm just going to give him a name so I don't get mixed up. Man. Okay, so we've got one layer with the man on, one layer with the background on. Okay. So that's the first step here. Now the next step we need to do is to cut out the actual limbs or parts that we actually want to animate here. So in this case, I think, conscious of the time here, we just gonna quickly animate his arm down here. So again, I'm going to use a free select tool coming down here to go around the outline of the area that we actually want to move. Okay, in which case it's his arm with his camera in it. So again, just bear with me there, and there we go. Okay, so there's his arm area. Click back onto the right layer. Okay, I'm going to do a Control X to cut his arm out, Control V to paste it in again as a new layer, and I'm going to call this Arm 1. Okay, so if I click that off, we can see that the arm has gone now, is on this separate layer. But obviously we've now got a little bit of a problem, because the main part of the trunk of this man is now missing because it was obscured by his arm. So I'm just going to zoom in here, and there's a couple of bits I missed here when I did my selection. So I'm going to click on the man layer and get rid of these artifacts here. Now I think as we're fairly short of time, what I'm going to do is just select this area here and give it a fill, really, with a flat colour, and then maybe we can blend it in a bit using one of the cloning tools. We'll see how we go. So I'm just going to select around this area. How much of the area you want is kind of obviously down to you. I'm just going to take it round the edge a bit here and join it up. Okay, and then I'm going to select the colour. So I'm going to use the pipette tool to pick up the colour, and then use the fill command to put it all in there. Okay, so that's just filled it with a flat colour, which is okay, but not that great. So I think what I might do is go to the spray tool and spray in a little bit of white around over that edge there. So, and what we can also do is move down the opacity if it's starting to make too much of a hard edge along there. That looks fine to me. Okay, so what I'll then do is select everything, and that's kind of filled in his t-shirt area, but there are some obvious problems here. So what we can use here is the healing brush, and I can just control click in one of these areas and see. Yeah, there we go. Oops, that was going a little bit transparent there, so I don't think I really want that. I'm just going to try and blend these together a little bit better. It's never going to be perfect, but obviously if we had plenty of time we would probably clone this area out. But another thing we could do is we can try and spray on this kind of colour by taking the pipette and then using the spray tool with a sort of an average opacity and then spraying it on here to try and give it a little bit of a kind of a shadowy effect on here. But hey, we're not too worried at the moment. Obviously if you're going to do a professional animation here, this is where you'll be spending a lot of your time reconstructing. But GIMP has a lot of great facilities and a lot of tools for making your life a lot easier in this area. So if you're not familiar with all the tools available, then I advise you to go out and check out our series on the GIMP tools, which you'll find pretty helpful, I would imagine. Well, I'm not going to spend too much time on this layer because this tutorial is concerned with the animation techniques. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click back on the arm layer here, and then I'm going to use a Control C this time to copy the layer instead of cut it, and then a Control V to paste it in. So this time this is going to make a copy rather than pulling it out. I'm going to call this arm 2. So if I click off this layer and off this layer, you can see I've got one copy of the arm on arm 2 layer and another copy on arm 1 layer. This obviously doesn't look very useful at the moment, but what we're going to do is we're going to take this second layer and we're going to move it slightly using the rotate tool. I'm just going to pick it up at the corner and move it around. Click on the rotate button. Then I'm going to go back to the move tool. I'm going to try and keep his shoulder in a roughly the same position so it looks like it's pivoting about that point. So we can see there we've got two slightly different positions. You can already see a little bit of an animation effect there if I click those layers on. So we're just going to keep on doing this. I'm going to again select this layer, copy it, paste it, create it as a new layer, call it arm 3. Use the rotate tool, again rotate it a little bit more, and the move tool to move his shoulder into the right position, should be about there, and we keep on doing that for as many frames as we need the motion to occur. So let's do one last one just for effect and move it. So move it to about there. That's probably a little bit too much actually, but we'll see. Okay, that's fine. So we can now see that the movement we're going to take is we're going to take from this position to that position to that position to that position. Okay, so it's going to look like his arm is going up, he's raising the camera up towards his face. So having created our layers now, once we've done all the groundwork, we can either put the background back in if we really wanted to do that. As you can see here, we had a problem where we've cut the arm out here. We may need to do some repair work. I would advise in this case using the cloning technique. That's our position 1. So what we're going to do is create this as frame 1. So I'm going to do a file, save a copy, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to call it picture, and then I'm going to put underscore, and then I'm going to put a frame number on here, which is 001 for this frame. I'll save it as a JPEG, but you can save it as any kind of raster image that you want. So I'm going to change this to 75% quality. That's fine. Now I'm going to move his arm to its second position and save that as frame 2. Okay, and likewise frame 3. And finally frame 4. Okay, and so when you go look in your file manager, you will see you've got 4 JPEGs now. Okay, each with their own frame number, so you know which order they're in. And the next thing we need to do is to actually animate them. So if we go and start KDEnlive here, which is what I tend to use, but you can use any other animation package that you want. So I am just going to click on the add clip here. Okay, find my way to my pictures directory. Click on the first picture and then click this checkbox import image sequence. Then click on the open, and you'll see that it comes in as a single clip of 4 frames long. And I can just drag that into my timeline, and if I go all the way back and go through it frame by frame, you can see the arm moving up and down. I'm afraid the picture is rather small in that preview window, so I think what we'll do is we'll render it out so you can see the full effect. So I'm going to change it to website, YouTube, 1 pass, and let's call it, I don't know, man. And click on render to file. Yes, I've already got a file there. Let's overwrite it. Wow, look at that, that's a fast render. And let's go back to our file manager, click on KDEnlive directory, and where did it put it? Ah, there we go, man.mp4. That was over pretty quick, wasn't it? There you go. So there you go, that's how to animate a photo using GIMP and KDEnlive.